Hello, and thank you all for joining me for another installment of Public Works and Infrastructure. I am Lorraine Cochran Johnson, and I serve as your chair. I seem to be having a little bit of a delay. It's very much like watching one of those movies, karate movies. So hopefully this won't be too painful for everyone today. We'll get through this together. I don't want to say yet, let me take a look at the final agenda. We have quite a long agenda ahead of us, so we will not follow the agenda as it's written. But first, let me acknowledge, before I go into that, my colleagues, Commissioner Robert Patrick and Commissioner Ted Terry, who sit alongside me. Today, in order to adjudicate the cases that are presented to us, we will not have our quarterly report on water sewer capacity. Mr. Williams, before we get started, earlier today when we spoke, I charged you with making me aware of any items that needed to be heard today due to time sensitivity. As I refer to my notes, and bear with me one moment here, because I have notes everywhere. There was one item that had been expressed as time sensitive, and that was item number 1464. But I would ask at this time, if there are others, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yes, and I don't, Director Horner, were there any others? I think the other main thing, Commissioner, was having those sent to audit. So.
And item 1586 was also time sensitive. And the new items have been sent along. And moving forward, Leah, I don't think that Mr. Obang is with us today. But I think, if you would just send them, let's get them over as quickly as possible, because I think sometimes there's a little bit of a delay by a day or two. And of course, I want you to send those on off. So that being said, I'm showing at this point 2 items that are imperative today, and that's 1464 and 1586. So I'm going to go ahead and get started down the agenda. First thing we're going to do is deal with the minutes. Our last meeting was held on May 17th, and both committee members were present. Have you all had the opportunity to review those minutes? And if so, is there a motion from the floor?
Madam Chair, I will move to approve the May 17th meeting minutes.
Okay, have a motion to approve. I have a proper second from Commissioner Patrick. I have read them. I find no fault. So all those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect we have approved the minutes as presented from the May 17th meeting. The first item that we have today in queue is item number 1614, and this is a change order for trenchless sewer rehabilitation and construction and televising inspection services by the Department of Watershed Management. Contract is a cooperative agreement and consists of providing sewer line rehabilitation services to primarily include inspections, sewer line cleanings, and cured in-place pipe. This, of course, is a part of our ongoing CIP, and it is to increase the contract scope of work and the term through December 31st of 2024, as well as the funding. And on this particular item 1614, bear with me here. Let me go to my personal notes. It is in audit. And I believe this item came out of audit, but there was a discrepancy. Am I correct on that, Ms. Horner? Between the ask of around $159,000, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
You are, yes, Commissioner, you are correct. If you would like, what we can do is if you approve it with the knowledge that the substitute in the amount of $29,030,548.05 will be received and voted on next week.
And Ms. Horner, give me that dollar amount again.
It's $29,030,548.05. That was what was supported by audit.
And is there anyone who can state what that discrepancy was of around 159,000, which honestly, when you're looking at 29 million, that's a drop in the bucket, but I still want to understand what was the discrepancy?
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Hi.
This is Lavua Campbell. So essentially what happened here was that there's typically a 10% allowance that is allowed, that is provided for based on the total dollar value of the contract. But that allowance amount is typically calculated at the end. But in this case, we had allowances done at both ends. One, the allowance was actually included as a line item on the contract itself. Then a further 10% was calculated on top of that, which resulted in an overstatement of the contingency allowance that is typically provided on such contracts.
Okay.
So essentially, there was a duplicate, redundant allowance amount that was provided.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for that. I just wanted to understand where that discrepancy came from. Of course, again, this is a part of our ongoing CIP work. I'll ask committee members at this time because I have no questions concerning the item, but are there any questions from any of our the committee members as well as those who may be joining us? I don't see that we're the popular kids today. I don't think any other fellow Theo commissioners are with us. Okay, well, I hear silence, so I will accept that as a firm understanding and comfort with the item after reviewing the packet. So I would ask, is there a motion from the floor related to item number 1614?
Motion to approve agenda item 1614.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
And then, I'm sorry, was there a change in the amount or do we already change it?
There is a change in the amount. We are changing the amount after audit. There was a discrepancy of approximately 159,000. So what we would be approving is a substitute in the amount of $29,030,548.05.
I'll restate my motion to reflect the chair's description.
Okay, second.
Okay. All those in favor of the approval of the substitute on 1614, show of hands and words.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let the record reflect that we have approved item number 1614. Now, the next item that I have in queue here is item 1624. And this particular item is in audit. And even with my infinite wisdom and being near perfect, I can't remember this one. Mr. Campbell, did you send this out of audit?
No, it's still being reviewed.
Okay, well, that's why I don't remember it. So I continue to be perfect. Since this particular item is not of urgency or time sensitive, I would ask, and Mr. Campbell, let me say thank you. I know you're as busy as a beaver over there, that you all allow it time to come out of audit. So I would ask that we defer this particular item, 1624. So unless there's objections, I would ask for a motion.
And we just want to, I guess we don't need to do a time period, just is 2 weeks enough?
It should be.
Okay. All right, well then I'll move to defer item 1624 for 2 weeks pending the audit report.
Second.
Okay. Have a proper movement on 1624 to defer and a proper second. All those in favor, show of hands and words.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record reflect we have deferred it. We are now up to item number 1668, and this is a memorandum of agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation, GDOT, for additional Covington Highway street lights. Then let me go to my notes. This item, here it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a memorandum of agreement for additional street lights, and these are between Panola Road and Harrison Road. There are 16 additional lights that were requested by the county, and basically GDOT requires that the county assume the cost of operation and maintenance of the lights. So no cost to the county for the installation, but annual maintenance and operating costs are estimated at $3,699.12. So thus, that is the amount here that would be associated with the item for the installation, the fees associated with the street lights after installation. So has everyone read this item, and are there any questions concerning us assuming the fees associated with the street lights? Yes, Commissioner Terry.
Yes, I see no problem with this agreement. I definitely support more streetlights. I did want to continue to note that that the current reimbursement structure for streetlights from Georgia Power is unfair, and we need to be pushing the Public Service Commission to give governments a more realistic pricing paradigm to follow, because these LED lights produce use 9/10 less energy, but they cost more for us than those old sodium halogen old school lights. So it's a little, it's a little annoying to spend so much money on street lights because they're so important. We could probably do even more with the same amount of resources, but we're actually paying more for these LED lights, even though they're a lot less expensive to operate. But that being said, let's get more lights out on Covington Highway. Thank you.
Okay. And, I don't manufacture the knowledge. I don't know what you're referring to. So that's a conversation we can have separately. I know that previously the issue that we'd had with streetlights had been the fact that they were destroying them to remove the copper. So I am going to assume that these particular streetlights are a part of the new model that does not have the copper, because that had been the biggest issue we had faced when I came in 2019. But with that said, we can talk offline about the issue you raised, because I need to be intelligent about it. But we are in agreement. We need to add these 16 streetlights. So with that, I would ask if there is a motion from the floor on 1668.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 1668.
Second.
Okay, got a proper move and second. And all those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the next item that I'm showing here is 1659, and this is SPLOST funding for Glenwood Road sidewalk and right-of-way acquisition. And on 1659, this is another, now this item is pretty self-explanatory as well. It's to reserve $750,000 of SPLOST funds for acquisition of easements and right of way for proposed sidewalks on Glenwood Road. And of course, you can't install the sidewalks until you have acquired an easement and the use of the right of way. So that being said, it's clearly identified within the packet. But I will now at this time ask, are there any questions from the floor related to 1659?
I have a question.
Okay, go right ahead, Commissioner Terry.
I was just curious, is this, because there wasn't like a map in the packet or anything, but is there, are we doing like the 10-foot sidewalk, or is it a 6-foot sidewalk?
I did not look for the size, so I will defer that question to someone who has the knowledge. But I do know that the actual sidewalks will be installed from Glenwood Road to Columbia Drive and along Covington Highway. So Mr. Hayes, or actually that would be Miss Allen, are you here as it
I can-
relates to these sidewalks?
Director Felton.
Yeah, I can handle that one.
Thank you.
For the most part, it's going to be a standard 5-foot sidewalk. There's just fairly limited space through there to get sidewalk in, and also all of the utility poles and transmission poles that are out there.
Always those dang utility poles everywhere. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Okay, any more questions?
Yeah, just a follow-up on that one, Madam Chair.
5.
Can you hear me?
I certainly can. I'm multitasking and not good at it, Commissioner Terry. Now, you just go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. So is it are the sidewalks on Glenwood or on Covington Highway? Because it says Glenwood sidewalks. So I'm just trying to get
They're on Glenwood from Columbia Drive
Down
to
to
Covington Highway.
Covington.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
we had previously done a sidewalk project farther in from Candler to Columbia. So this is an extension of that.
Okay. And is that, I'm trying to remember, because I know it's in District 3 and 7, but I know Glenwood kind of keeps going to District 6. Is that part, is it 4 lanes or 5 lanes?
That is, it's 4
I believe
lanes.
it's 4 lanes. Yeah.
It's 4 lanes. Okay. All right. Well, I ask because I definitely, I'm a big believer in, let's just take a lane from the traffic, especially when there's an extra, turn lane that, only serves to cause more head-on collisions and confusion. Especially for those areas where there's a utility pole, and you're exactly right. Moving the utility pole is like $100,000 or something per pole. It's something ridiculous. So we just got to be more creative, I think. And those 5-foot sidewalks. I mean, they're not good enough. But I understand, you got limited space there. So I just think in the future splost round that I think we got to kind of cement ourselves that we're going to do the wide sidewalks. It's just a feature of, walkability and bikeability that, if we don't have that full 10 feet, or even the path foundation is now building them 12 feet wide. It sort of kind of cuts off some of the future mobility issues I think that we're trying to reach. So, but no, be happy to support.
Okay. And Commissioner Terry, your statements are well received. I would say that, some of our streets are, even with 4 lanes, it's quite narrow. So I would urge you to take a ride along the Glenwood area from Columbia to Covington, because it is, I can definitely understand why we're only going in there with 5 feet. Unless we were going to do a major overhaul of the roadway itself. I don't think it would be conducive, and many of those homes are also very close to the street. So that being said, though, I understand your statements, but, and those are well received. Anything further concerning these sidewalk installations? Okay, and seeing none for the acquisition of these right-of-ways, is there a motion on 1659?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 1659.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect, we have approved item number 1659. The next item that I show on the agenda is item number 1462. And this is a low bid. It is a 3-year, multi-year contract for use by the Department of Watershed Management for providing professional maintenance, repair, and replacement services for Scott Candler Water Treatment Plant for the ozone generation system. And it's recommended to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder in the amount of $379,200. And let's see here. Let me go to my notes, and that's 1642, I believe. Oh, 1462. I think I'm transposing numbers. And on this is a specialty service that's associated with this particular contract item for ozone generation support. And I believe, Mr. Hayes, you would be the one to speak on this item, 1642 or 1462.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Yes, this is a request for support to maintain the ozone system. This ozone system is at Scott Candler plant. It's used to do primary disinfection for the drinking water.
And I understand this is not a sole source, but there's limited suppliers.
Correct. This is not a traditional way of disinfecting. This is an advanced way of disinfecting. And so that means that there are not a great deal of people to work on this equipment.
And, might I ask, why have we chosen this method?
Improve quality of water. It improves taste of water, and it eliminates byproduct, disinfection byproduct.
Okay. Commissioner Terry?
Yeah, I was just going to note that, apparently there was some water some water taste test or something that the Georgia water professional engineers had, and Gwinnett won the best tasting water. And I'm like, why didn't DeKalb win? Because we have some of the cleanest water because of the ozone treatment. I want to say, doesn't Gwinnett also do the ozone treatment as well, Dr. Hayes?
I'm not certain of that. Gwinnett, they do have advanced technology, so I would not be surprised if they did have it.
Okay. I do remember during my Scott Candler water treatment tour, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the chlorine method of treatment is sort of the most common, but there's all these extra things that have to go into sort of, once you've put the chlorine, you got to kind of like clean it up again. And that the ozone system is kind of like the gold standard really of water treatment. You don't have to use all that chlorine. Did I have that right?
Correct. When you're using chlorine does not discriminate. It will kill any and everything that it comes in contact with the proper concentration. And with that, it can produce disinfection byproduct. And so going the UV route, the ozone route, it reduces taste and odor, and it reduces the disinfection byproduct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing so that we all understand the method behind the choice. Any further questions from any committee members on the approval of the item 1462 for ozone generation support? And seeing, let me come back here to you guys. I see no questions. Is there a motion from the floor?
Move to approve item 1462.
Second.
Got a proper move and second. All those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye. Okay, let the record reflect, we have approved 1462. The next item that I'm showing is item number 1514. And this is a standard renewal, the second option for fire hydrant replacement parts and services for use by Department of Watershed Management as well as PDK for the repair and replacement of fire hydrant and hydrant parts. And, you know, I've seen this one come before us. I was here for the first and I find no issue. It's for $1,300,000. So I would ask fellow commissioners if you've had the opportunity to review the item in your packet and whether or not you have questions about this particular item for fire hydrant purchase parts and replacements. Okay.
No questions.
Okay, if there's no questions, Commissioner Terry, is that the look of bewilderment or are you okay?
No, I thought the fire rescue department did the fire hydrants. So who actually installs them? Does Watershed install them?
I will allow, let's see, who do we have on this particular item, 1514? Would that, I'm sorry, who would speak to that?
Right, is that, David, is that you on the replacement?
Yes. Fire hydrants are installed oftentimes by the development community, but they are maintained by watershed management.
Watershed?
And the fire rescue just tests them.
They test them for their own potential use, yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions concerning 1514? If not, I'd accept a motion from the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 1514.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Thank you for the second. All those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect, we have approved the renewal for the fire hydrant replacement parts and services. So that takes us down to item number 1535. And on this one, this is also a renewal for disaster recovery and sewage cleaning services by Department of Watershed Management as well as Facilities Management for providing disaster recovery cleaning services of water and sewer for repair to systems affected by spills from heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and plumbing. It is in the amount of $800,000. And this contract basically still deals with restoration of properties that are affected by SSOs. So it is a standard renewal and it gives us money. And I'm happy to say that as we expand, replace, and enlarge our system and as Snap Finger wastewater treatment advances, we are seeing fewer and fewer SSOs. So I'm very excited about that. Early on in 2019, when I got here, there were several, pending cases where, residents had been adversely affected. And this is the pot from which the money comes when there is an issue. Is that pretty accurate to say, Mr. Hayes? Well, Mr. Hayes, you're on mute.
You are correct, Commissioner. That is the pot from which the money comes to correct sewer spill issues when it impacts residents and businesses.
So to my fellow commissioners and those who are joining us, I see that Commissioner Davis Johnson has also joined. Are there any questions concerning 1535?
Yes, just a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
So is this contract specifically for like interior repairs, or does it include like the, the outer overflow spills?
I
This is
believe
for-
it's
I'm sorry,
everything.
Commissioner.
No, go right ahead, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, this is for interior. If sewer enters inside the business or residence, then this contract will allow
Okay.
the business or resident interior to be cleaned and sewer removed from the interior.
Now, Mr. Hayes, I have a question because oftentimes when you have an SSO, you also have to do remediation on the outside. So that is a separate contract?
Yes, Commissioner, that is a separate contract. Oftentimes, it's managed by watershed management, but if it's too large of a SSO, there is a separate contract for that.
Great information.
Got it. Thank you.
Just made a note of that. Good information. Thank you. Thank you for asking that question, Commissioner Terry.
I found that one.
Any further questions? In that event, is there a motion from the floor?
Motion to approve item 1535.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect, we approved 1535. Next item I'm showing in queue is item 1561, and this is a standard renewal, first renewal of 2 options by Department of Watershed Management for providing maintenance and repair of Snapfinger Creek Facility pump drafts. And these are, of course, mandated by the consent decree and not optional. And on 1561, according to my notes, this is drive shaft maintenance. And these are services that are needed at our older lift stations. It connects the pump and the motor. These are long steel shafts that bring 2 pieces of equipment together, and they must be maintained to prevent malfunctioning or breakage. Okay. Anything else that anyone needs to say about this particular contract for drive shaft maintenance? And that's 1561, and it's a standard renewal. Okay. Mr. Hayes, do you have anything to add to what I've said?
Commissioner, you're spot on with it. There's nothing more. It's a shaft that connects to units, similar to, actually identical to the drive shaft on a vehicle that connects the transmission to the engine.
Okay. Any further questions, having reviewed the packet from fellow committee members?
No questions.
Okay. Well, is there a motion from the floor on the maintenance of these drive shafts?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 1561.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Let the record reflect, we've approved the drive shaft maintenance request of 1561. We are now up to 1603. And this is a ratification. Okay, and this is a ratification for security to the water treatment plants and facilities. And anytime you hear ratification, it's already taken place. Now we're approving it. For use by Department of Watershed Management for providing adequate security to Department of Watershed Management plants and facilities. Emergency purchase of $287,100. And basically, this is for security at Watershed. The ratification includes a second company that will be added to the existing contract that can provide the needed support of Watershed At the Brookhaven Station, front gate is monitored, secure 24/7. At the remaining locations, we provide security during operational hours. And with this contract, it includes everything from roving checks to ensure that there's no one on site and make sure that equipment is maintained. And Commissioner Terry, I see your hand, probably know where you're going, so I'll let you go ahead and go. I recognize you at this time.
I don't even know where I'm going half the time. But yeah, no, I mean, I think like clearly this is important. And I imagine, I know there was some news report that said there was a bunch of things stolen off one of our lots. So, you know, I think certainly we should make sure the security systems and, you know, personnel are there. I did want to mention, because that was in the news, that a constituent reached out and, you know, kind of reminded me or made me aware of I guess, a technology that exists out there that are in essence, you know, little, I mean, they're like those little iPhone tags. They're in essence GPS tags. And so I wonder, just, you know, when you look at a price tag of $287,000, you know, is that going to be like an annual thing moving forward? And I just wonder if there's any efficacy in, maybe there's some sites or some equipment caches that it might be more cost effective to, in essence, you know, geotag them, and in sort of a serotypish way, so they're not obviously, you know, we can just take them off, but that, you know, in essence, you're sort of like not monitoring something as you would with like a full security apparatus, but you have a way to sort of immediately track when a cache, you know, the GPS tracker is moving. So as soon as the cache is moving, it, you know, alerts, and obviously if it's being tracked, it can be, you know, sort of investigated pretty quickly. So I just want to throw that out there. I kind of thought or forgot about this newfangled technology, but apparently it's, you know, been miniaturized and, you know, seems to be sort of something that we could look at in the future.
Well, believe it or not, you didn't disappoint. You went straight where I thought you were headed.
Okay.
Because of course, when I read it, that was my question during the meeting, before the meeting. Is this a result of the issues that we recently saw in the media that were associated with watershed and equipment that was missing? Keep in mind, and you raise a very interesting point, and I think that's something we should bring to committee so we fully understand. This is for physical security. Physical security. But what are we doing in terms of the technology that's out there? Because I'm very familiar with what Commissioner Terry is saying, where we can tag equipment and we would have the capacity to monitor it even remotely, so we will know where it is at all times. And, you know, I'm also wondering, even as it relates to sanitation and our workers, do we not have some form of system that allows us to track where our equipment and or workers are at all times? And Mr. Hayes, okay, Mr. Williams, I see you, so I'm assuming you want this one. So you're free to answer.
Do we have systems that track where our equipment is at all times? Yes, for major equipment, I think a lot of those are GPS identifiable. And as a matter of fact, we've recovered some equipment through that. I think, David, correct me if I'm wrong, we use a certain dollar threshold as to, you know, on what piece of equipment you're going to have those types of things. As it relates to employees, that's a little more difficult, Commissioner. We don't have something that tracks where employees are at all times, but a lot of our vehicles have GIS or GPS locates on.
Interesting, and I say that because during one of my iterations of life, I worked for IBM. And during that time, you know, and as it relates to quality assurance, I was in charge of brokerage. So I literally had Wall Street. And if a piece of equipment went down, it could be critical to the stock market. So these companies paid millions and millions of dollars for the assurance that someone would be on site within a 5 to 10 minute window. And I could literally, once a person was dispatched, I could see where they were using a GPS system because there was so much money at stake there, the entire route. And in all honesty, I want us to have this conversation because that technology now is not very expensive.
So in a lot of our vehicles, we have that. So like, we'd be able to track in a lot of our vehicles, but just not on a person. You know what I mean?
Okay. And I did see Ms. Hutchinson. I don't know if you just became visible or did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Thank you, Commissioner. We do have the GPS in our sanitation trucks. And we're able to track the app on our phone. We could track the movement of trucks on our phones and our computers and our desktops.
I think code enforcement uses it in their tough books.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I guess maybe just to ask the obvious question of, so we're already doing this at certain facilities because this has already happened, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's specifically, well, it says emergency purchase. So this is equipment, it's like surveillance equipment, security.
No, we are adding an additional contractor to an existing contract to expand the scope of security. The existing security was not deemed adequate. Is that not, am I reading something wrong, Mr. Hayes?
No, ma'am, you're exactly right.
So we're expanding. As I said, currently we provide 24-hour security at the one location. At the Brookhaven Station, the front gate, we have 24-hour security there at Watershed. But all of our remaining stations, it's only during operational hours. But this contract allows us to add an additional $287,100 so we can expand the scope of the work.
Okay, I understand. Okay, sorry, so now I'm looking at the right document. So it says to supply security guards at DWM plants and facilities. So it's mostly just security guards.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Physical labor.
Okay.
I do see I'm so sorry, Commissioner Terry. I'll allow you to finish and then Ms. Horner, you can go right ahead.
No, I'll hear from Director Horner and then I'll come back.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that we are in fact using this as a contract in addition to the existing contract. We're not allowed to add other vendors to the existing contract, but they are experiencing the same workforce issues that other companies are, and they currently cannot meet all of the county's needs, which is why Watershed looked outside of that contract to find someone on an emergency basis.
Understood. Now that brings me to another question, Ms. Horner. Will the original contract be lower due to the performance associated with this contract?
The original contract has got an extremely low cost associated with it. And it's my understanding that's why the security company is having difficulty filling open positions.
Okay.
That was my comment, Madam Chair.
Yeah, and it would appear that if one isn't doing their job and we're creating a second contract, but you said it's low, and I do realize that pre-COVID and post-COVID. Oftentimes, as it relates to salaries, it's more competitive out there in the workplace. Many people don't want to work, and there's just so many challenges. So I sit here and I'm trying to justify. Commissioner Terry, I see you over there in a quandary too. Go right ahead.
Well, like this has already happened, so we should go and ratify it. But I did speak with some of our, because is it called all-in-one security?
You're correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I talked to some of our all-in-one contractors, in our building. They do the check-in area with Major Amos, and I found out they don't get paid very much money. I think they get paid $12 an hour. Now, this emergency purchase request says that for Scott Candler, says a $40 hourly rate. So does that mean the company is charging us $40 and then they're paying their employees? I assume they're paying about $12 an hour. That's the going rate. So is that what's going on here?
Well, Commissioner Terry, I'm going to take executive privilege and say that is a quite possibility. Because when we pay an hourly rate, and I see Mr. Hayes has a chuckle there, but we pay according to a rubric and an industry standard. But in some industries, what you find is that they contract out to employees at a lesser cost. Now, one thing that we may want to address as a body, as a board of commissioners, is
Harry Irwin's, do you have her desk phone?
Is if we as a county have a $15 minimum wage, perhaps it's time that our contractors do as well. I see no heads nod.
No, I think this is probably in line with what Commissioner Terry has proposed before, that we require in our solicitations to require that our bidders or proposers provide livable wages for those providing the services that we're buying, and that certainly is under consideration.
Commissioner Terry?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I would like. Maybe it's more of an ERPS committee sort of project, but I did, check in on the minimum wage, the minimum living wage, and for Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, it's $16.93 is sort of what it's been increased to based on cost of living, inflation, and I don't know. I think on one side, clearly, if we require that in future solicitations, we would have to pay more, obviously. But there again, all-in-one said they don't even have enough people, to do these jobs. And, I kind of wonder, like, if we were, the one client that was saying, well, we want our security guards to make the living wage, and that it has to go up every year, right? Like, that's the other thing, is that we did $15 minimum wage here in DeKalb, but we did it, about 4 years ago. And so inflation and cost of living has already pushed it up almost $2 more an hour. And so we're already behind. And I just would wonder would we have issues in the future with the shortages that all-in-one is faced with if we did sort of have a different cost structure and with the security officers that they provide to us as the client. So, I know this is important that we do this now, but I would welcome the opportunity. I don't know, Mr. Williams, if that's something you're looking for, a policy from the board, or if the administration already agrees with us that we should be paying folks a living wage. So I'm happy to respond, but I think we should do it. So I want to find a way to move forward on it.
But let us talk about that here, Commissioner, and then we'll come back to you. We've not had a specific conversation relative to contract.
Okay, and I look forward to that conversation because, I'm very concerned with what I see going on right now. And even at $15 an hour, I'm just sitting here $15 an hour at a 40-week, that's only $600. That's $600 for an entire week of work. Times 52, that's $31,000 a year. And that's,
Half of it went to housing.
yeah. And that's just not a livable wage. And many people debate increases in minimum wage and the potential negative impact that it would have on employers. So it's somewhat of a slippery slope. But I think you get more productivity out of people when you treat them better. When you give them greater resources. And, sometimes I'm disturbed by what I see. And I do appreciate you pointing out that we contract with companies that aren't currently abiding by our $15 minimum. So, Mr. Williams, we'll have a separate conversation and, do your due diligence and come back to us, because I do think it's time that we have a minimum requirement.
Sure, and we would be happy to take a look at those contracts. And I'm thinking security and custodial are the ones that come to mind that may be impacted. There's probably not that many, but we'll take a look and we'll come back to you.
Thank you. And Ms. Horner, go right ahead.
The only other comment that I would like to make is that this is what we hope a temporary solution. We're looking at statewide security contracts to see if potentially we could piggyback off of those in order to supplement our current service.
Understood. Thank you for that. And let's see here. We're on 1603, understanding, and after having this discussion, are there any further questions on 1603? And if not, is there a motion from the floor?
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 1603.
Okay,
Second.
got a second. All those in favor, show of hands and words.
Aye.
Aye. So we've approved item 1603. And now we're up to 1615, and this is a change order number 5 for DeKalb Sidewalk Program, Phase 2C on Salem Road, Henderson Road, and Flat Shoals Road for use by Public Works and Transportation. Contract consists of construction of sidewalks along Salem, Henderson, and Flat Shoals Roads, awarded to Precision 2000, Inc. Not to exceed $310,462.95. And on 1615, this change order is necessary, according to my notes, to address costs made necessary by design modifications for utility conflicts. It will extend the contract also for an additional 6 months. The project has been fairly extensive, and we have found some issues with utility conflicts. Also, I became aware that they hand dug test holes to verify exact location of the utilities. And let's see here, we have, my question became, do we not have documents that show us where the utilities are located? But I do understand from speaking with those within the departments that some of the utilities are more than 50 years old, and our records are not always accurate. So that being said, Mr. Pelton, is there anything that you need to add to this to the statements that I've made concerning the need here? And it's, again, due to utilities. We were off on the utilities, and it's going to cost us.
Right. So we do coordination with utilities, but the locations are not going to be exact. Most of the time, we can when we encounter utilities in the field, we can make adjustments and work around them. But that didn't really work out in this case. So the contractor had to do a lot of, well, they were delayed and had to do a lot of hand digging related to the installation of storm drain pipe, which added to their costs. So the 310,000 is really addressing a claim filed by the contractor related to that work. And I do want to add that on future projects, we are going to be relying much more on doing test holes in advance, which will give us exact horizontal and vertical locations of utilities at spots where we think there are going to be conflicts.
Yes, Commissioner Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I guess the first question is this a 5-foot sidewalk?
This was a 5-foot sidewalk. Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then just to clarify, so the utility conflicts are the stormwater utility conflicts, not like poles or gas lines or anything like that.
So we were installing, when we installed the sidewalk, we were putting in a new storm drain system. And so the conflicts were, in this case, it was the storm drain system and an existing water main.
Oh, a water main.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so you need a watershed so the coordination is between watershed department as the utility and then the contractor.
Right. Well, during the design process, we did utility coordination, including with watershed, but we ended up with a conflict in this case that we were not able to work around out in the field very easily.
Okay. So basically, this in the design phase, they're either just this was missed, basically. The water line. Did we know the water line was there?
We knew the water line was there. I'm not quite sure how the one conflict was missed, but a lot of the issue here was the close proximity to a very old asbestos cement water line, and it's prone to breaking if disturbed. So they had to do a lot of hand excavation instead of what they would normally do.
I see. Okay, so this change order in essence is just it just took longer and there was more person hours put into it. Gotcha. Okay.
Just another small comment on that. If you have an old water main, and especially asbestos cement, a lot of times our mapping doesn't show incredible accuracy with depth, and that's very sewer and water main.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I did see, I believe, Mr. Kingsbury's hand, so I want to recognize him. And I don't see his hand. Now I see Commissioner Patrick's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to confirm that this is part of I know it calls it out specifically, the Henderson Sidewalk project. I know I've received several complaints about stormwater pipes and equipment and sort of that orange tree save material in people's front yards. This will take care of that issue, and we'll be able to move forward and complete that sidewalk project.
So this is actually addressing what happened on Salem Road. On the Henderson Road part, our consultant is redesigning some of the storm drain out there to avoid some conflicts that came up out there. And we should have those plans next month sometime.
Good. And then if the plans are ready next month, is it just simply get out there, or is there another process to go through before?
There will probably need to be another change order related to that.
And not to hold you to this, but is there a rough timeframe as to when we might see construction start to finish off that project on Henderson?
We're thinking probably the fall.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Pelton and Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
No problem. Any further questions, or is there a motion from the floor?
Just one clarifying question.
Go right ahead.
And so it says on the change order, use of host funds. I think I must be missing something because this is splost, but is some of this funded by the host?
Some of the project was funded by host. I think you're looking at there was a change order. I think that might have been the first one that changed some of the funding around. But part of our match for the project was funded through some older host funds.
Older host funds, okay. And is that okay? Not the current e-host, but just
That's
collected
correct.
years ago. Okay, so
Right.
that's a pot of money that just will be drawn on until it's gone, I guess. Okay, all right. Good to know. I'll move to approve item 1615.
Second.
Thank you. I have a proper movement and a second on 1615. All those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item that we have in queue is item number 1630, and this is a change order. Snapfinger Advanced Wastewater Treatment Facility for use by Department of Watershed Management for Phase 2 expansion of Snapfinger Advanced Wastewater Treatment Facility, inclusive of site prep, modification of existing structures, and the construction of new structures. This request is to increase the contract term through November 30th of 2023. And according to this, the company that was to provide the precast for the administration building burned down and had to be rebuilt before they could make the precast. So the precast is only being built at this right now. And they need a contract time extension only. So we're extending the contract for 1 full year as a result of the fire that they incurred and their inability to construct the precast earlier. Anything anyone else want to add to the need to extend the time on 1630?
Good, Commissioner.
Okay, let me come here. I can't see you. I have papers in front of me. Anything, did you have something to say, Mr. Hayes?
No, Commissioner, you were accurate with your description of what's going on.
Okay. Any questions from fellow committee members or others?
Yes, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
So I know that when I did my Snapfinger tour, I looked into that 20 million gallon tank of stuff. That Archer Western, they're the main contractor for the whole site, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And I know that there's been some delays, and there's some issues that worked out at the end there. But is this delay material to the system starting, or is it like on other ancillary aspects of the site?
So, Commissioner, this was a critical path. This is precast, the exterior of the building. This particular building that is exposed is the admin building control building that allows all of the electronics, computers, and things like that. Okay. So they could not add the final SCADA system, computer and electronics in there. However, they have a secondary location that they put together so that they can functionally test all equipment. But again, this will be the main control place for the final product.
Yeah, when I was there last year, it was a kind of a metal shell. It's a pretty big building. So, okay, so what I heard was that there will be an opportunity for, there won't be delays in the testing to as Snapfinger gets up and running. Does that, but in terms of like sort of, I know there has to, you have to run it for several months, I think is what I heard, before it can actually fully be, brought into operation. So, but I guess the main command center, if you will, is that delayed so much that everything else is delayed, or is that it sounds like you're saying they're on two different tracks.
They're currently completing the exterior of this building, the precast. They're coming in quickly, and as they come in, they're putting the exterior up on the building. And then simultaneously while they're putting up that precast, they are about to fill these tanks and start functional testing on all equipment. And that should take place second quarter, third quarter this year. So they're in process of doing that as we speak.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything further? No, okay. I'll entertain any motion from the floor.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 1630.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, show of hands and words, aye.
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 Okay, let the record show that we've approved. Just a minute. Okay. So now I'm up to item number 1631, and this is a change order. Number 4 for construction management services at Snapfinger for use by the Department of Watershed Management for providing construction management services for Snapfinger Advanced Wastewater Treatment. It is to extend the contract through November 30th of 2023. And give me just a moment on 1631. Okay, this is sort of, for lack of better words, a piggyback to 1630. If we extend the contract time necessary for the precast to be built, we have to extend the contract further for Tetra Tech. There is no money involved, but they are responsible to oversee the work. So this literally extends the Tetra Tech contract. So it coincides with item 1630 because they are responsible for overseeing the work. Anything anyone else want to add to that statement?
Exactly correct, Commissioner.
Yeah, so if we've extended the time for the work, we have to extend the time for the oversight. So unless anyone has any further questions, it's just that simple. Then I would ask, if there's no questions, if there's a motion.
I guess just because I wasn't here, or I think when it originally started, but so this contract was set to expire on June 30th.
Let me go back. It was set to expire I would believe November 30th of this year. Is that correct, Mr. Hayes?
I believe this contract, I think Commissioner Terry is correct. I think it was June 30th.
June 30th?
This is adding 500 days, 500 plus days to the contract. I think that's what.
No, I'm sorry. Are you referring to 1630 or 1631?
I think they both actually are, say, expiring June 30th, 2022. That's what I'm reading on this document.
Hold on.
I'll say on the cover sheet of 1631, it says this request is to increase the contract through, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
very bottom there.
And it does appear to be June 30th.
And I guess what I was just kind of getting at is, I guess we were going to have to extend this contract anyways, because we weren't going to be done by June 30th. I didn't think that was probably possible, but now that we're looking at November 2023, because that's like a lot longer. Isn't that a lot longer than what we originally had thought Snapfinger would be operational by?
According to Snapfinger should be operational and the project should be complete by October 2022.
Right.
Now, that's what I was told. Now, with this alone, I won't deem Snapfinger incomplete as a result of it. But I want to hear that from someone else besides me.
So commissioners, we're preparing a presentation for you, and we'll give you a full overview on the projects and everything that are going on with the project here very soon at one of your upcoming PWI meetings. But it just as a quick cliff note, the plan for this year is to start water testing this summer. And that will be 2 to 3 months water testing. And then December of 22, January 22, to start adding sewage/sludge and doing the full sewage/sludge testing. So we are definitely hoping to have this portion of the project completed in 2023 and have it substantially complete to where it will be functional.
Yes, Commissioner Terry.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Chair. Just a follow up. So I haven't seen, I don't remember looking very detailed at this contract before. So just sorry for like repeating myself, but so for the Tetra Tech contract, it is to, in essence, manage the entire site. But is there going to, I mean, it suggests that there's going to be active construction through November 30th, 2023. So I guess is what, like after the sludge testing in January next year, is there like another phase that has to, I mean, what's happening the rest of 2023 that this contract would, cover?
Commissioner, we have it's just as building the house, they're punch lists. So while things are functional and you're moving in, the things that may have been overlooked are things that may need to be addressed. And so this punch list has to be completely addressed before DeKalb County takes full possession of the project. So Tetra Tech, they are the keepers. They're making sure that everything is done to specification and all the work is in fact done the way it needs to be. And so they have to be aboard as long as the construction site is active. Now, is there major construction going on? No, we're talking about minor things. We're talking about pump testing, equipment testing, making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Okay, understood. And that makes total sense. And I guess, I mean, just, kind of a general thought here, because, we're extending the contract, but, certainly we don't want to delay, right? Or we don't want to see any delays because of the circumstances, I think, that were mentioned earlier in with the fire and the precast building. So I guess, do we feel comfortable that, this is a change order to extend the contract, but not the amount? So, I think sometimes when we think about expanding a contract, assuming that that's opening up the possibility that they would ask for, there'd be a change order in the price because there'll be more work to be done. So I guess, do we feel comfortable that at least in this regard, in this contract, we're on budget, or do we think that we're going to need to come back and add more to it next year?
There is always the potential to need for change. we're just over 90% complete. And there could be something that arises that may need a change. So I cannot say that there will not be forthcoming change orders for funding.
And, you know, I will say, Commissioner Terry, and then this is not in defense, I give credit where it's due. Mr. Wendell Brown is to be
Doing a great job.
complimented. He has done a great job in terms of keeping this project at minimal cost and completing it in some very difficult circumstances. And, you know, unless Mr. Hayes is going to come in here and tell me something different, October of 2022 is when we were to be done. Now we're saying here that, you know, this particular casting, but do keep in mind, the casting could not be complete after the contract was awarded because the company suffered a fire and they burned down. So they had to reopen the doors and then complete the work. But beyond that, unless I get a new report, I'm still expecting things to move along on task. So, Mr. Hayes, I won't put you on that spot, but we'll look forward to hearing from you and, you know, with an update on where we are.
Yes, Commissioner, we will have that update presentation for you.
All right. Well, with that said, in order to allow time for the completion of this the oversight on 1631, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve agenda item 1631.
Second.
Got a move and a second. All those in favor, show of hands and words.
Aye.
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 We are now up to item 1669, and this is a change order for use by Department of Watershed Management for on-call engineering services that primarily include engineering studies, design, land surveying, and construction administration services for water and sewer consent decree projects as a part of our capital improvement plan. To add, what we're doing here is adding the Department of Public Works and Sanitation to the contract and increase the contract scope of work and funding. And in doing so, that's going to cost us $196,821. And it says here on my personal note, sanitation will use Arcadis for a sanitation fund revenue sufficiency and fee analysis. So Ms. Hutchinson, do you want to speak to that? You're adding this $196,000 for a sanitation fund revenue sufficiency and fee analysis. What does that mean? Is this in correlation to me asking and us saying, come back to us with new rates?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that it? Is that what's going on? That's right, correct?
That's correct. So the first part is the revenue analysis, and the second part is the rate analysis, but that is 100% correct.
Okay, sometimes I infer what I read, and when I saw sanitation rate analysis, we've had the conversation. It appears everything around here is a slow walk, but this is really important.
Oh, it's very important.
Yes, this has been long overdue. We've not addressed the rates for sanitation. And, you know, I know right now you're dealing with some challenges, and we're going to come to an item that's in a response to and a way to hopefully rectify some of those challenges as it relates to the type of vehicles we're using, because there's such a demand for CDL drivers. But we really need to get this approved so you can come back to us with some solutions as it relates to these rates, so we can see some revenue increases. And Commissioner Terry, I'm going to acknowledge you at this time.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I totally agree. This is, you know, a really important next thing for us at PWI to work on. Certainly the water rates were a big one, and I think this one is another really important one. So just to recap here, so there is a Arcadis has already done, or I guess maybe already is currently has done and will continue to do rate analysis for the watershed department and their rate structure. And so this is in essence just piggybacking on that contract to look at the sanitation rate structure. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay. And then is it basically the same kind of analysis between water rates and sanitation rates? It seems like it's a totally kind of different ball of wax. But I guess I should just ask the question, is Arcadis experienced with sanitation rate structures?
Well, so far, we've had some excellent meetings with them, Commissioner, and they're looking at us as compared to other cities and counties and the services that we offer, and that's included for the residents in the current annual assessment fee that they pay. So they're comparing that against other cities and counties here in Metro Atlanta. And then we may even go as far as City of Savannah also. And then when it comes to our commercial services, they're looking at, they're looking at the roll-offs, they're looking at the front-end containers, commercial recycling prices, anything that generates revenue, our transfer stations, our landfill gate fees, our animal crematory, anything that generates revenue for sanitation. They got a long list that they're looking at, but they're doing an excellent job so far. We've had some great meetings with them. And budget and Diane McNabb, budget is included. Diane McNabb and her team is included. So we've had some good meetings so far.
Gotcha. Okay. So a big part of their work is doing, a survey, but also it sounds like specifically looking at revenue enhancements. And I guess, Mr. Williams, that's part and parcel with the idea of how much we need to raise into the sanitation fund.
Absolutely. So as Director Hutchinson mentioned initially, one of the issues is the revenue study. How much money, revenue do we need to bring into the system? And then that is determined what is the most suitable mix of charges that would be appropriate to create that revenue. So that is where a lot of the comparative analysis goes, looking at the myriad of lines, whether it's picking up bulk items or, Director Hutchinson just mentioned a whole host of those. And what Arcadis is doing is taking a look, where does it make sense on each of those lines for us to land in order to generate the amount of revenue that is necessary. The guidance we have provided thus far is, we want to be as balanced as possible, but we are not trying to overburden the residential customer. So in many ways, though, Commissioner Terry, it's very similar, in fact, to the discussions we've had in water and sewer.
Okay, well understood. And and I think I totally agree. I think that's really important. And I really do believe that the landfill operation is one of our most valuable assets.
Absolutely.
In the county. Really it's the water and sewer department and the sanitation operation. So I absolutely want to support sort of this journey as we try to look at kind of maybe a more comprehensive sort of service package. What is the opportunity for PWI committee members and or just commissioners in general to, I guess, sort of interact with Arcadis in sort of that discussion of, ideas and maybe innovative approaches to, identifying more money?
Absolutely. So how about we make it a point as part of part of the study that we come back to the board, if we can divide it into, 4 equal components, maybe at the 25%, 50%, so on and so forth, that makes sense. Okay. And they can share, hey, here's what we're finding. To your point, one of the things they've looked at, that our landfill is unique. We are one of very few. We should monetize it. And here's what so we can have those discussions. We'll just come back and we'll talk about it. give the committee an opportunity to have input as it unfolds.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I guess the last question was, what is that time frame look like?
I'll be honest with you, Commissioner, I was hoping to have this done by mid-year, so it's close. It's a
Oh, so
very rapid.
they're going to get started right away.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in theory, we could just have an update every 2 weeks at PWI.
I would suggest something like that. Absolutely.
Okay. But there'll be an opportunity for Arcadis to, because I mean, I just kind of treat it like a, stakeholder committee, right? Arcadis could interview PWI members. Obviously, we follow these issues very closely, but anyone else who would want to kind of give input, because I really would like to push the sort of the study and the kind of the consideration of, the full sort of implementation of our landfill gas capture and sort of how that meshes with the oil company credits and, that system, as well as the composting potential, which I think has the biggest potential for, revenue. So
right. And those would be completely appropriate conversation. What we may have to do in the interest of revenue generation, Commissioner, is have discussions on those, because what you've described, you have fees, set fees, and then you really have business operations. Our mulching is a business operation that needs to, possibly be increased. The production of gas and stuff, those are businesses that we really need to focus on as such and invest in them so that they could have a return on those investments. But the conversation is completely appropriate with Arcadis.
Understood. And then just to clarify, is it, I know the tax bills have already gone out, so it's too late to add fees to the sanitation.
No. Well,
Don't happen like that. Yeah.
right. So the tax bills have not gone out, Commissioner. I don't know what
I got one in the mail.
Well, I'm guessing you have your assessment.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I assume that's what.
That's what it is,
We
Commissioner.
can change it after the.
Commissioner, unless you want to pay twice, I mean, keep paying. We will accept it.
Well, I just thought the assessment, they mail out the assessment. So I guess if we change it between the assessment and the actual
Right.
bill.
So
okay.
Excellent point. So understand that the sanitation bill, the sanitation fee, although it is resident on your tax bill, it is not incorporated in your taxes. It's actually separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'm in a city and we just pay for it on our tax.
Right. Everyone just, you write one check, but there is the $256 or whatever it is actually a separate, it's not part of your taxes.
Okay. So for unincorporated residents and cities that have our service,
absolutely,
it's not on their tax bill.
It is resident on the same bill as your taxes. Therefore, it's on your tax bill, but it is not part of your taxes.
Well, no, I know that, but you still pay it at that time.
Right.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm digressing. Okay. So so the reason why you want to do this now is because we need to get some money in the fund this year.
No.
Well, it would be really for next year, but yes, we want to get money in the fund. We would collect the monies at the end of this year for the tax bills.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We'd collect more money this year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Begin collections this year.
And Commissioner Patrick, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Zach, and Tracy, so I get that this is going to be looking at the sanitation sufficiency and fee analysis that they're doing. Is there anything that's looking on the operation sides? So sort of looking at salaries for staff. Are we competitive? Are we behind? I know
yes.
Commissioner Terry's made reference several times about the prevailing wage versus what I know we have posted on our website for positions. So
Commissioner,
how does that fit into this?
Excellent question. And we are looking very much at what we are paying in terms of salary. And as we discussed earlier in ERPS, what else is there, beyond salaries? There may be other things that attract employees or will retain employees. But we are clear that our employees, virtually throughout the organization are in high demand, and the market is pulling them not only to other public sector operations, sanitation operations, but to operations in the private sector, sanitation operations. And there are also those, if you're a CDL driver, who could find yourself with opportunities, and you've shared with me, Commissioner Patrick, what Walmart is paying or what Coca-Cola, or, so we're very clear that the market and the value of the market is really pulling at our employees. So we're definitely looking at that. Not as part of this study specifically, but we're looking at it much more in other ways.
A couple of quick follow-up points, and I know everyone on this call and everyone listening appreciates the need for good customer service and following through on our service commitments to our residents. I get a lot of emails about services and some of the issues we're running into, and so I would strongly encourage you guys to look towards solutions that ensures that the level of service that the residents of District 1 and of all of DeKalb County have expected in the past can be maintained. Of course, we want to be as light on the taxpayer or ratepayer as is possible, but by the 50th email, I get it. We need to step up the service and whatever is necessary to make sure that our residents' expectations are being fulfilled. I hope that this salary survey, or the survey that's been discussed, also includes a salary survey so that we can address that issue, and residents can worry about other important things besides why the bag of leaves or recycling still at the front of the yard.
Yeah, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you.
Not only do we hear you, and we appreciate the invite to speak at a committee of the whole meeting, and hopefully at the next one we're able to unveil a lot of the work that has been going on, because we recognize that there have been challenges over the last couple of years with COVID, just like everyone else is facing. But the expectation is that DeKalb County finds ways to solve them and provides the service at a level that our community expects, and we'll be bringing you that strategy in the next couple of weeks.
Yep. And I guess, Madam Chair, if I may, just one more quick thing. Also the commercial services. I know that when it's been missed and we've been able to reach out to staff, you guys are like quick on it to get it fixed, but also getting it to that point where you've got the staff resources as well as the equipment resources to be able to address those things without sort of businesses coming through the Board of Commissioners asking for assistance on those items as well.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. And, Commissioner Patrick, your statements are well received, because just this weekend I was in the company of a mayor of one of our municipalities that said, what is going on? Because of the level of concern that has been expressed to them through the community. And I just want to say that either you're going to spend the money or you're going to spend the money. And when I say that, if we are required to dispatch multiple trucks multiple times per day, that's manpower, it's labor. I'm not sure what the rotation is when there is a missed or omitted run or street, and then we have to service it. But there has to be some solutions. So I receive what you say very well, Commissioner Patrick, because I receive the same emails, and I want to see us get it right.
Yep.
And I'm committed to providing whatever may be necessary to see that, all of our departments run decent and in order, and we meet the level of service expectation that is not just expected, but for which we've contracted, because we are a service-oriented business. And Commissioner Terry, I do see you and recognize you at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last point I'll make, and I want to just echo and ditto what both you and Commissioner Patrick are saying about the municipalities, because I think one of the sensitivities that certainly the commissioners that have, significant parts of their districts that are made up of municipal constituents, there is a limit to, what we, in essence can do for them. Obviously for zoning and, budgetary things like that. But when it comes to these sort of core county services, they sort of, it's like literally all we can do for them. And so there's a lot of more pressure, I think, on some of us who, expect that, every 4 years, those municipal constituents will vote for us, understanding that there's only X number of things that we can touch in their lives. And certainly sanitation and water and sewer are kind of top of the list there. And, I think just as we were saying earlier about the sort of the process that Arcadis would go through to elicit feedback from commissioners, I think also applies to the municipalities. I think that one of the kind of the biggest sort of revenue threats to the fund is if we lose a major municipal client. And so I think we should kind of really do our best to sort of safeguard that customer base, because I think the sentiment is that the cities do recognize that, that it is a good service, and it is good to have that coordination on these types of sanitation services, recycling services, landfill services, hazardous waste, material, sort of like all these things are very valuable. The chipper, all those things that we do that sort of go above and beyond just picking up trash. And so, is it possible that we can get Arcadis to engage with our municipal clients as part of, that kind of that information gathering session, just to understand sort of more holistically about what, that client and customer base, is interested in. They might have ideas, they might have additional resources, they might have additional opportunities we may not know about. And so I want to I think one of the easiest things we can do to sort of show that we're, that we value their contract in essence, that we want to see them help, guide where we go in the future. Because these obviously rate increases for unincorporated, I assume, would affect the municipal contracts as well.
Absolutely.
Now, and hold on, because, when we talk about that, we can't just sit here and do a friendly amendment. Now, and Commissioner COO Williams, I see your hand, but we do need what I consider a remediation plan and a course of action that is tangible, that is in hand. And I'm not sure this particular study, as it relates to the rate increase, is the study to do that. I'm not sure Arcadis is the company to do anything more than their piece. So I hear you loud and clear, Commissioner Terry, and I do. I would love to see a remediation plan once we've had this study and it takes into account the rate increase, the amount of revenue that will flow through the sanitation department. I said when, last time Ms. Hutchinson was here and she could find $6 million like that, I said, we need to apply that money towards these workers. I would say that sanitation is probably the most difficult job, or one of the most difficult jobs in DeKalb County. And the pay is not in line with individuals that are working every day in the elements that requires heavy lifting. It's not glamorous work. So let me hear from you, Mr. Williams, because I don't want to muddy the water with the study. The study is one thing.
Right. So I believe where we are, that first and foremost, we need to look at our revenues and find how can we increase the revenues in order to not only have the appropriate staff, but the appropriate equipment in order to meet the demand. When I began in DeKalb County about 9 years ago, the then CEO asked for us to come up with a strategy to avoid a fee increase. That's 9 years ago. And at that point, I believe it had been maybe 10 years since there had been a fee increase. The cost of fuel, the cost of labor, the cost of healthcare, all of that has gone up in this intervening time. And the population has grown, but the rates have remained the same. I think we're at a point where the first order of business is really evaluating the fees that we charge, starting with that landfill, quite frankly, because it is so unique, and monetizing that in a way that makes sense, because we are going to find that we're dramatically undervaluing that asset. And moving forward with that. We can, in addition, work with the cities, not through this contract. This is much more of a bean counting type exercise. Work with the cities in education in terms of how the system is designed to work, because in certain areas, whether it's in cities or unincorporated, you have folks who are still overloading the garbage cans, or doing things that the system is not really designed for. So I think there's going to be a lot to it, but I would think at this point, and I would recommend at this point, we move forward with the work from Arcadis with the fee study, and we position ourselves to recommend some fee changes over the next couple of months.
Madam Chair, got just a quick follow-up question. So if we're talking about increasing the fees, but we don't have a component that talks about making sure that we have the staff operationally to meet that expected level of service,
we will have that. We will certainly have that.
We'll have that.
The staffing and the strategies for staff retention and recruitment, we will absolutely have that. And
So
as I said, that's a separate effort. It's not something Arcadis does. That's something, those have been ongoing conversations with, to be honest with you, Commissioner Patrick, across, really, we're having it in public safety, but we're also having it across departments, because in many instances, watershed, roads and drainage, and sanitation, and fleet have many of the same, CDL personnel with CDLs that are being recruited into the marketplace. And we can't just sit on our hands while that happens.
Right. Madam Chair, if I may, just another follow-up. So
Go right ahead.
we're going to get the Arcadis report, but we're also going to get a paralleling independent report that talks about salary survey countywide then?
No.
Again, just to be clear, I just, the idea of trying to sell a rate increase when we're having some frequent difficulties is
In service delivery is not going to work. Yeah.
that's a hard sell. Like that's a tough one.
I understand. And so when you say countywide, we will likely have recommendations that involve this, sanitation and some other key areas, and those that are having difficulty with recruitment and retention. As you'll recall, in this year's budget, the CEO made one of the top priorities recruitment and retention.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, although we knew going in back in January that there would be an international labor shortage, we didn't recognize how it would affect us. As each week goes by, we see how it affects us. So, there are positions like those who operate our sanitation department that are crucial, that are part of our studies and our evaluation, but there may be some operations that, can wait. It's just,
And
this is not one that can wait.
yeah, and let me say this, because Commissioner Patrick, I understand perfectly what you're asking. And I think what we really need, what would be, I'm very interested in understanding what other municipalities are paying sanitation workers, so that we're able to compare apples with apples. But beyond that, this is, according to what I hear, an industry-wide shortage. It's not just sanitation. people everywhere struggle to find CDL drivers. So maybe we even need to look at what they are being paid in other markets beyond sanitation.
And we're doing that. That's
And-
exactly it, Commissioner. That's-
So now you're doing it.
Mhm.
But again, we all know, I've been saying this from 2019 when I started to understand what was going on. We've got to do something about sanitation and building, because for a long time, we've not been in line with market. But in terms of our fees,
Mhm.
but we've been through so much when it comes to water and even with the recent increase in the water rates.
Mhm.
Now, again, Commissioner Patrick is right. It's one of those things where you're going to need to do right before you can go to people and say, hey, I'm wanting to increase cost, but to a certain extent is how we craft it. But we've got to get operations under control to make people feel good about any rate increases that would be forthcoming. So you say you're on it. So I want to show me this report with these rates,
That's
because
right.
we've
Yeah.
asked you about this a while back. So I was able to come to the conclusion when I saw this is what I've been asking for, So we want to hear from you, and don't tarry not.
Right. So that's why
long.
we need this. Right. This will help get us there.
Okay, and Commissioner Terry, and go right ahead.
I know, I'm sorry to keep dragging this out, but I know this is a really important discussion. I completely agree that if we are, in essence, voting to raise rates, even if by small measure, we need to, show there's value being added to it. Certainly, there's always the inflationary pressures and just the realities of just, running an operation, costs increase. And so, maybe there's an element of a rate increase that is just the cost of doing business. And maybe there's an element of the rate increase that is designed to enhance services. And I agree with the just the wage survey and pay parity in the industry. That to me makes a lot of sense. Something Commissioner Patrick has mentioned in the past, and I hear it from residents, is just the as much proactive communication as possible. I think the missing of a pickup is more upsetting when you sort of find out late, when you come home, I guess, and it didn't happen, right? But the proactive, hey, we're running behind, on these, in these areas, there's some mechanism, some customer service strategy enhancements, communication investments that allow us to have a more real-time communication with our customer base. And the technology exists where everyone who wants to get an alert on their phone or an email or something, it just exists. And so we should just adopt modern customer service technologies where, someone goes to our website and a little chat bot pops up and you can just talk to someone right there in the moment. Or, oh, hey, we know we're running behind this, on this route, just heads up, you get a text message, right? And just, I think that part of it is it's people understand the struggles that we're all going through, because Atlanta had the same issue, right? That was, in the news and during the same time we were having the same issues. A lot of people sick, a lot of people out for the holidays. It's just perfect storms happen. So I think people are sensitive to that. And so the way I view it is as long as we're proactive and communicating and upfront that sometimes there are going to be these issues, and then that we're trying to really create a frictionless experience for them to sort of vent or to just at least make sure they know that someone got the message, right? And every once in a while you get a message. I sent an email and it went into a black hole, right? And that's probably the most frustrating, is when you feel like no one's hearing you. So I think to a certain extent, some of those kind of sort of kind of abrasive interactions can be lessened, and restore a little bit of confidence that that we're being as proactive as possible. And then again, I think like the opportunity exists for us to provide additional services, right? So just something that really is more than just it's the same type of service, but we're sort of expanding it. And I think we've already been discussing those things. So hopefully Arcadis can really sort of look at the big picture. I would argue that they should look around the world for ideas. There's tremendous things happening in Singapore.
Yeah, I was
as an example. But like we could look at I went to the the watershed conference, and they were talking about stuff they're doing with their water system and their landfill. And, it's just, you just learn things so I'm hoping Arcadis can really get some out of the box ideas, as well as like you said, the bean counting stuff of here's how many people, here's how many routes, I know there's an element of that just we need to, get our formulas right to address the growing population in DeKalb. So thank you.
And thank you all of you commissioners. This is excellent conversation. And we recognize, that unlike maybe some of our other jurisdictions who canceled service, which is one approach, we have not. We've continued to work through it. And, it has been a challenge because we've worked through it with less resources. But I think we're on the right track. And this is critically important for us to be able to move forward. And whether my instinct tells me we will start our recommendations with landfill fees.
Okay, well, in lieu of time, because we do have two items, 1464 and 1486, that I want to hear before we walk away, because both of these items are time sensitive. So I would ask,
Did we vote on this last
there's
time?
been so much talk, we didn't vote.
Exactly.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 1669.
Is there a second?
You're on mute, Ted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, show of hands and words, aye.
Aye.
Okay, we've finally approved 1669 after much discussion. So now if you gentlemen will go down with me to item 1464 is what I believe you will come to first. Technology today is not my friend. Okay, 1464. This particular item is okay. Ms. Horner, did this item come out of audit?
I was just checking in anticipation of your question. I do not believe it has.
Okay. And I just wanted to make sure because again, I'm still perfect. I didn't think so.
Yeah. David, have you seen anything from Mr. Campbell?
There was one question from Mr. Campbell this afternoon. That question has been addressed, so I anticipate it coming out shortly, but I have not seen it as of now.
And one question to you guys, if we don't move on this item, does it put us at a point of detriment and peril? Because we could, because I've read the item, I understand the need. It's pretty self-explanatory. However, when you have a rule, you have rules. We could move it forward pending audit if necessary, but if not, it would sit here 2 weeks.
I would appreciate that, Commissioner, if you would hear it approving pending audit.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's have the discussion and we'll move it forward without a vote. And by the time we get to BOC, I should have a report on it. So this item is a low bid for ferric chloride, liquid oxygen, and various chemicals for use by the Department of Watershed Management. consists of providing chemicals to treat drinking water for DeKalb County residents. Recommended award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, not to exceed $6,363,288. What say you, Mr. Hayes?
This is a low bid item for standard chemicals that we use in both wastewater and water treatment. And it is critical because these items are used daily in all of our water functions. It's the standard contract. Is not too much into it. It's just, again, it's critical because it's used every day and the contract has expired. We're really floating on fumes here. Purchasing contract, they are working with us to keep us afloat, but we need this to continue for the next couple of years.
Okay, with that being said, this was a low bid, wasn't it? Hold
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
Okay. Because I remember this contract, I believe my first year as a commissioner. Commissioner Terry, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to delay things too much, but I do always look at these bid tabulation sheets and kind of scratch my head sometimes. Not always, sometimes, because it looks like on 2 of the treatments, only one company actually put a bid in, and it's like, I mean, it just looks like some bid for one thing and others for the other thing, like, but for only that one thing. And I assume that's like their specialty. It looks like there was one company, there was the one line item for the sodium hydroxide that had 3 bids on it, but the first 3 it was just each company just sort of had its own, only bid on that one. So I guess in some sense it was a low bid, and in others it was a no bid / only bid for that. Like for the ferric chloride, PVS Technologies was the only bidder. Am I reading that right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Correct.
So I assume that company specializes in ferric chloride, but it's just, I don't understand why those other companies didn't also bid for that specific treatment. Same for the liquid oxygen, same for the chlorine gas.
So if I may.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. You are right. Some of these chemicals are specialty chemicals. Some of these chemicals can't be mixed, and they have to be, you have to have your company tooled to manage certain chemicals. You mentioned PVS and ferric chloride. They are somewhat of a local company outside of, I guess the main company is in Michigan, but they have a sister company in Augusta. They specialize in chloride. Anyone else who provides that would have to ship it in from other states, and that yields them not to be competitive. So these people do have their niche, and therefore you will sometimes have one, sometimes no bid.
Gotcha. Okay. Seems like chlorine gas, there wouldn't be that same issue. So I'm just curious for liquid oxygen and chlorine, are those as specialty items that also only one company could really deliver it?
There's not just one company that can deliver it, but again, a competitive edge. Oftentimes history for all the municipalities around here, one company in the area, close to the area, truly has a monopoly because they have the competitive edge. They're local, or they have the rail system, and they can produce this product and get it here at a lower cost, where other people can produce it, but they have to take care of shipping and logistics, and that yields them not to be competitive. And if they know that they're not going to be competitive, they will oftentimes not put in the resources required to submit a bid.
I got you. Okay.
But these companies, they have been around for quite a long time, and they know the market. They know who's going to bid and what the other company can bid for. So they know when to fold and when to play poker.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mr. Hayes, that almost sounded like some, anyway.
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, that's Kenny Rogers.
Thank you. I forgot his name.
That guy with the beard.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Horner, I do see your hand, so I'm recognizing you at this time.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hayes covered it very well. And because of the competition, once a manufacturer gets in an area, they may also protect their resellers. So you really only have one source for their product. And then on some of the things like liquid oxygen, it's been pointed out to me in the past from DWM that part of the issue is the size of the load. You may find someone who can sell you liquid oxygen, but can they sell it and deliver it in bulk of 4,500 to 5,000 gallons?
Okay. Gotcha. All right. That was all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. With that being stated, this is, it's a low bid. This is an ongoing contract, but are there any other questions or is there a motion from the floor?
I'll make a motion to advance this out of committee to the full board pending audit.
And we'll just say without a recommendation.
Without a recommendation. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of the know when to hold them, know when to walk away.
Mm-hmm. And, as soon as the audit report is complete, I will send it along to everyone with a note indicating that we advance the item without recommendation pending audit. And if the audit does not show or substantiate the dollar amount, then I would make a recommendation in BOC formally that we have a substitute that is consistent with the findings pending audit.
Second.
And is there a second? That was a second, Commissioner Terry. So all in favor of moving the item to full BOC without a recommendation, show of hands and words, aye.
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 Okay, so we progressed along 1464. And the next item that I show that we needed to address is 1586. And this is also a low bid for LMIG road resurfacing projects for use by public works, roads, and drainage for resurfacing of county roads. Recommended award to lowest responsive and responsible bidder in the amount of $12,729,048.82. Ms. Horner, look in your magic ball. And what say you? Has this come out of audit?
Excuse me, my magic ball is a little bit slow right now.
It's foggy.
I
It's
keep
just
shaking it.
foggy.
I do not believe this has come out of audit yet.
I remain perfect. I don't see it either. So on this item, it's self-explanatory. Now I'm gonna come over here and let's see here what it is you want to say about 1586. I take it Miss Allen is still with us at the rodeo, and we get it. But I mean, I would say because this is for our road resurfacing, I'm gonna let you have your say.
Yes, ma'am, I am. We've been in communication with audit as late as this afternoon. We would like to try to move forward pending audit. We're in the middle of paving season, so 2 weeks missed in the summer is like months missed, and resurfacing is bituminous oil-based product, which means every time your gas price goes up, the cost of this resurfacing is going up. So we like to get started as soon as possible because the longer it takes, it's going to affect us on the back end price-wise.
Understood. Commissioner Terry?
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge that the bid tabulation sheet for this contract is very competitive. It's a tight little, sort of, it's very close, but HEH Paving, which is the recommended bidder here,
Pulled it out.
definitely, has some very competitive prices. I still get confused. I'm still baffled by the huge range that we see on traffic control, because one over here is saying $500,000 and the other is saying 3.2 million. And I just don't see how they can be so wild unless they're like paying like $5 an hour or something, something ridiculous. So I'm kind of baffled by that, but every other line item seems to be, right in line with each other and just very competitive. So, other than the traffic control line item, which doesn't make sense to me, all the other ones, seem good. So is this something that we're going to get in, like audit's going to be done with by next Tuesday?
Yeah, if I may, I'll go ahead and add to that we've been in discussion with audit as late as, during this meeting. And that issue that you brought up as far as traffic control is the only issue that we have that audit is concerned about. And what I advised audit is that traffic control is strictly the responsibility of the contractor. We do not enter into the traffic control requirements because they have to design what they believe is going to be critical. And because of that, they assume all the responsibility of traffic control. So they end up doing their design. They end up doing the assumption of responsibility for traffic control. And unfortunately, that's one of the items that each contractor can play with, so to speak, to protect their bottom line. So quite often there is a lot of disparity in things like traffic control. The other one that we see that happens very often with a lot of disparity is mobilization. Those two are very vague items. You'll see a lot of disparity on them. It's just a quirk of the industry. And I haven't yet in 45 years figured out a way to, make these things streamlined and get them to be universal without assuming too much liability for the results. So as a result, I expect that you'll see a recommendation from audit that's going to be appropriate.
Okay. And Mr. Kingsbury, I've seen your hand. I've seen the thumbs up. You're still there. So there you go. What
Real
do you
briefly,
have to say?
Rick and Peggy are spot on. Traffic control is risk management for the contractor. It varies widely depending on their risk tolerance. And Peggy's right, the asphalt prices aren't getting any cheaper. And I'll just note this HEH is an LSPE. They've performed successfully on other paving contracts. They have one underway right now. And this is LMIG money in the tune of about 4.2 million, I believe, Peggy, and 8.6 in SPLOSH dollars to make up the match and get us to 25 miles. So with Peggy, let's try to move it as quickly as we can.
Understood, because the price may change tomorrow.
It will change tomorrow, yes.
As gas is increasing. So with this, I know the pot that it comes from and the necessity. So I would recommend to my fellow committee members that we advance it without recommendation pending audit. And, next week we should have, thanks to Mr. Campbell and all his hard work, a recommendation. And at that time, I'll read it and we can hopefully move it right along.
Madam Chair, I did have one quick question.
Yes.
Which is, I don't recall seeing the list of streets that are going to be covered with this contract. Could we get that list, the mileage, the start point, finish point, like we've received another?
Absolutely.
Rick, if you could get that.
Yeah, we can absolutely provide that. I'll have to just look it up and we'll send that out tomorrow.
And if you could just delineate which district that segment is in as well, that would be helpful.
All right, tomorrow afternoon.
Before
You know
one
your
though,
street
right?
names. What are you talking about? You know all your streets.
With that said, Madam Chair, if I may make a motion to approve 1586, excuse me, I'll make a motion to advance 1586 to the full board pending audit's findings.
Okay,
Second.
and all those in favor of moving forward without recommendation, hands and words, aye.
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 Okay, so we have moved forward 1464 and 1586 with no recommendation. So today we have advanced 15 items total, 2 without recommendation, 13 with 12 with approvals, 1 deferral pending audit. So I'd say we've done as much as we can in the time allotted. We are going to carry over 7 items for the next meeting. And is there anything further to come before us here today?
Yeah, Commissioner, if I could, I'd like to advance item number 2022-1674 as a little bit time sensitive. This is the award of contracting services for reconstruction of a bridge on Park Avenue.
Oh, that's a $200,000 bridge, huh?
It's a $200,000 bridge. And the reason why I'm trying to push this a little bit is because the bridge has been given a recommendation or a requirement from GDOT to be closed. Because this bridge has some ramifications for access to some private properties, it may run into additional costs to the county to provide alternate means of access if we do not proceed with reconstruction of this bridge. So as a result, I'd like to advance this kind of as quickly as we can so that we can get this thing out from under us.
Understood. I'm familiar with the item. I'll go ahead and sound it. And gentlemen, if you will turn with me to item 1674. It is a low bid for bridge rehabilitation on Park Drive for use by Public Works, Roads and Drainage. Consists of rebuilding and rehabilitation of the bridge on Park Drive. The recommended award to lowest responsive and responsible bidder in the amount of $207,600.25. And let me go to my personal notes on 1674. And let's see here. Just as it says, it's to reconstruct a bridge. It's a wooden bridge primarily. The bridge has failed and has been closed per the directive of GDOT. It's a small bridge span with light traffic, but must be reconstructed. And again, I read about this bridge and looked at the bridge from aerials and all that. And, you know, I don't know that $200,000 will fix a bridge, but I'm told that it will. I'll just make sure I'll let the homeowners drive across it. So with that said, Ms. Allen, tell us about this $200,000 bridge.
Yes, ma'am, you did it correctly. It is indeed a tiny bridge, wood structure over Snapfinger Creek. And we had some additional time until they came in and ordered us to shut it down. So we really like to move forward with getting this rehabilitated as soon as possible.
And I certainly want to see that too. I'm going to ride by one day to look at the bridge. I just want to see this bridge. Mr. Terry, Commissioner Terry, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. No, it sounds like a very important project we should advance, no doubt. This bid tabulation sheet killing me. Yeah, 60,000 for traffic control and then 5,000. So one vendor thinks there's going to be traffic problems and the other is like, I ain't spending any money on traffic. So is this like in the middle of nowhere? Is that what I heard? It's like the end of a street or something?
Yeah, pretty much. It is, it's a small bridge servicing a very small amount of essentially properties. And this goes back into what I was talking about, just a little bit ago, that traffic control and mobilization are two items that contractors typically play with, because they know that it's very difficult for an owner to challenge those costs. And a lot of contractors will preload traffic control or preload mobilization because that gives them, for their first, well, especially on mobilization, that would give them an opportunity to bill or invoice for a larger amount on mobilization than maybe some other contractor. And it's just a way of them balancing out how they cost out their services.
Yeah.
And, it's very difficult for us as a client to say, no, your traffic control isn't going to be this much, or no, your mobilization isn't going to be this much, because we can't guarantee that and we can't direct that. So, that's just one of the areas that, ends up being a little bit dicey, so to speak. So if you are comparing, line items from one to another, you're going to see that kind of disparity. And it's just a quirk of the industry, quite frankly.
I understand. So I read you on the traffic control. There's a difference. So there's a line item here about paint the existing steel structure. And I don't know how one's got 130,000, the other got 32,000. And then there's a huge disparity on the guardrails. And I was in the impression that guardrails were like really hard to come by, because I think they're steel, right? Or there's some fabrication that goes on. And so it almost seems like one contractor must have the in on guardrails, because there's a huge difference in the price structure there. But I'm just confused about this painting the existing steel structure. So is that something that, like, do we set a condition that we want the steel structure to be painted, and then they had to reply to that line item?
Well, I think the best way I can answer that is there are quite often different requirements for paint, and it may very well be that one contractor is expecting some problems with the type of paint that is being used. Again, this is an area that, the specifications that we have, we believe are sufficient for complete reconstruction of the bridge. We'll just have to go with, as far as I'm concerned, going with a low bidder. Aggregate bidder is probably the best thing to do without getting into too many details. If this was a $2 million contract instead of a $200,000 contract, I'd probably be a lot more concerned.
Okay. All right. Well, if they come back and ask for more money, we'll know why.
And hopefully I will never have to eat crow on this.
All right. I'm ready to move forward.
Okay, go right ahead if there is a recommendation.
Yes, I'll move to approve item 1674.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, show of hands and words. Aye.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation with me.
Yes,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's what we're here to do.
Yes, we've approved the tiny bridge. So I kept thinking when I first read
How
it.
tiny is this bridge? Hang on a second. How tiny is this bridge?
It is a one-way bridge.
It's tiny.
It's a footbridge.
Yeah, so
I feel like I've seen foot bridges. They're more expensive than this bridge.
No comment.
So as long as we are able to do a job adequately, we want to take care of these residents. So I would say again, if there is anything left to come before us today, I want all hearts and minds clear before our benediction.
Madam Chair, just one quick question. 1680 is not critical?
I do not show it as critical now. If I'm wrong, I've asked that they speak now or hold their peace, Ms. Horner.
It's a ratification, so.
Correct. It was
Already.
critical, but we've already issued the PO and brought it back for ratification.
Okay. All right.
Yes, yes, I'm familiar with this item too. I mean, I've gone over them all, but you all tell me because the money's already been spent. This invoice, if I 1680, hold on.
This is the dealing with the rental trucks.
Yes,
Ratification.
and this will help us with the CDL. If you guys, well, we have 6 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and sound it.
Right.
All
And
right.
then, but understand that we are in fact already doing it, but yes, sounding it just shows, I mean, it's good to get the books cleaned up.
Let's clean the books.
Yep.
On 1680, this is a ratification of emergency non-CDL truck rental for use by Public Works and Sanitation. Consists of the rental of non-CDL trucks to assist with the recycling routes, not to exceed $5,200. Now, I'm very excited about this item because anytime we see ratification, that means the money's already been committed or spent, so to speak, but this will clean up the books. And this is for the emergency rental and use of solid waste collection trucks that do not require a CDL license to operate. DeKalb's fleet of collection vehicles requires drivers currently to hold a CDL, but due to the size and the complexity, and that's because of the size and complexity of those vehicles, these are smaller trucks. And because there is a nationwide shortage of CDL qualified drivers, DeKalb County has found it difficult to maintain sufficiently qualified staff to drive. So the result has been felt, of course, by all residents. And we are seeking to bring these, or this, shall I say, item seeks to bring online smaller units that don't require the CDL. That can be legally operated with a Class C license. So, is there anything else that anyone wants to add about this particular item? And hopefully this will help us solve the issue that we've been encountering. Now, these are smaller units, so that's going to have its own, you know, the capacity that you would have with a larger unit is not there. But if this helps us, perhaps we may have more on the road, or they become a filler. But I would allow, if Ms. Hutchinson has anything more to add, or whomever, then please feel free to do so.
Yeah, I'll go ahead first, and I'm sure Tracy can add to my comments. But you know, the intent is to use these trucks for replacing some of the recycling routes that we currently use some of the CDL drivers for. And by doing that, we free up those routes for those CDL drivers to take on other tasks within primarily the North Collection lot. And we believe that this is going to be a big step towards solving some of the problems and solving some of the constant emails that I'm sure you folks are getting regarding our services. So, you know, we do believe that this is a good step and will help the county tremendously. And Tracy, if you have anything to add, I'd say go ahead.
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, between you and Commissioner Johnson, I mean, these are non-CDL trucks, and we rent this agenda items is for 6 trucks for 12 months. So we wanted to do a long-term rental with the trucks.
And, you know, one of the questions that I had, because I know, for lack of better words, I think this is at this point more or less a pilot. So I guess depending upon how this goes, at some point we may entertain adding these trucks to our fleet. I would.
You know, that's very possible that we may end up, after we get through this process, we may find that this is a little change in our procedures, a change in the way we collect that may be advantageous. And obviously, we're going to take advantage of every opportunity we can to provide the best service for the least amount of money.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see it, and I hope that it helps resolve the issues that we're seeing, because we do want to see the department operate without, you know, the calls and I know that there are challenges, but hopefully this is a part of the solution. So to my fellow commissioners, let me check. Are there any hands raised or question? Commissioner Terry?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The trucks are the rental trucks, but are they like, do they look like little mini garbage trucks? What do they look like?
They do.
Yeah, essentially, they are small garbage trucks. They're less capacity than the types of trucks that we normally use. And that's why the CDL requirement is not there. But they are certainly capable of doing, the thing that we want them to do.
Okay, so the idea is that the recycling CDL truck drivers in a pinch can be moved over to sanitation CDL driving, and these rental trucks, smaller rental trucks, will have a sort of a reserve group of drivers that can basically sort of just take care of the route that's missed by the recycling truck, albeit maybe they'll have to take a few more trips.
Well, essentially, yes, but in reality, what we'll likely do is transfer some of those recycling routes directly to these trucks rather than saying these trucks are going to pick up the slack. These trucks will probably replace some of those routes because they don't need the capacity, and we can certainly get along with that. Then the CDL drivers that we do have can be utilized a little bit more effectively. We've got drivers that will man these trucks that do not have a CDL license, but don't need a CDL license to operate. So it enables Tracy to spread the work a little bit more effectively. And Tracy, if I've misspoken, please let me know. But I think I may have accurately described that.
Okay. All right. No, that sounds good. I'm really fascinated by these route sort of decisions that you're making, because I'm sure they're very complicated. Is there a way that you can sort of show us how you do these routes? And because you're mentioning like routes that have lower capacity, so I assume they have less, recycle subscriptions. And so to your point, it doesn't make sense to bring a whole truck into an area if there's only whatever, maybe 25% customer recycles base, right? So I was curious, like just kind of like how you actually get to this. If is like a software, is it, little GIS maps?
We've gone through a fairly extensive process over the last couple of years to streamline our routes, to computerize those routes, to obtain the most effective routes that we can obtain. And it's an unbelievably complex process to do that, because you're balancing the waste load with the mileage, with right turns, with just about everything imaginable that would impact how a route gets collected. So in trying to maximize our collection procedures, with the least amount of problems, we've gone through that process with GPS, with IT. It's been a very complex process, and a lot of it also goes on to just our abilities as directors to understand how things work. And Tracy does a tremendous job of that in understanding, what these routes can do and how we can make changes, even despite the computer programs that are going to enhance our ability to provide the service. And certainly Tracy wouldn't be recommending that we replace the CDL drivers on a recycling route if she didn't think that these non-CDL trucks would be able to handle the load. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Understood. Okay. And then just, I think you said it, but let me just ask again, and so is it the same sanitation workforce that will be driving, just not necessary for them to be CDL? But
Yeah,
I guess do they have to have some form of training at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We will be using our staff to drive these trucks. They will be trained to operate these trucks, but they will not be CDL qualified.
Right.
Okay, good. So they can't leave us for Walmart.
No.
Okay, Commissioner Terry, any further questions? Follow-up question? No, yes.
Nope, no, Madam Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Patrick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. These are only going to be used for recycling routes, not yard clippings?
No, right now we're
No.
anticipating that these are going to be recycling. And that will free up some of the CDL folks to do yard clippings.
Okay. And then can you guys send some pictures of those new trucks that you're going to be renting or leasing? I think that'd be nice to see in the community, and we can give the residents a heads up as to what's going on.
I see Tracy nodding her head, so absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. And I appreciate, Madam Chair, for the extra time on this one, as well as Zach, Rick, and Tracy for taking the time to acknowledge the difficulties with sanitation and the emails that I'm getting. So thank you very much for the effort. It's much appreciated.
Commissioner, hopefully you see that we're attempting to address it too. Not
Yep.
just,
We see it.
It's understood. I'm going to hold you to that one.
oh yeah.
Anyway, that
Please
was the
do.
Kenny Rogers thing. Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion to approve 1680.
Hey, I accept the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, show of hands and words, aye.
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect, we have adjudicated 1680, so that means we're only going to carry over 6 items. Okay,
Yep.
and again, I'm not going to ask any more if hearts and minds are clear. This time, I'm just going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, okay, thank y'all for staying with us. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You guys,
Bye.
appreciate you.